It is the day before Thanksgiving. We are glad that you're with us Wednesday, November 26th, right here on Jocks. We've got college football to get to, coaching news, coaching carousel beginning to come into form. We've got some updates there that we'll get to you. We also have some college basketball news, Auburn and Alabama in action last night. We'll discuss that across the course of the show today. A lot happening, and I will go down again as today maybe being the second biggest day of failure when it comes to sports television programming across the calendar year with the lack of football that will be broadcast tonight.
Especially since there were two games yesterday. One easily could have been tonight.
I understand there's going to be travel for people, and you want to Greg, I don't get it. How you cannot have football on today is when most people are going to be with their families hanging around the house. It's a big night for a lot of folks to go out. You'd have TVs on at the bars and restaurants, whatever that is, with the game on. Somebody's got to explain it to me, and I'll never get it. Tonight and Christmas Eve, I'll never get it.
Isn't today the number one drinking day of the year?
The what day of the year?
The number one drinking day of the year.
Oh.
I think it's actually referred to as the drunkest day of the year.
I mean, I know it's a big day to go out for all the folks that are heading back home and want to go see the folks and the friends and get out and about. Be careful tonight if you are. But yeah, I don't get it, man. Would love to have a football game.
Well, it's the drunkest day of the year because I think today is dedicated to reliving the glory days of high school, and then tomorrow is dedicated to family. So I think that's why it is the way it is. Like, I always get text tonight, and I've never, not one time, gone out on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving. So I don't know. I'm always working, and have been since I was 18 years old. Everyone's like, oh, it's so sad that you don't get to enjoy Thanksgiving. I'm like, my entire life has been dedicated to practicing on Thanksgiving and or having some type of, obligation relative to my job on Thanksgiving. So it's never bothered me. I've never thought about it. But sure shooting tonight, I'm going to have about 40 texts like, why aren't you at Copeland's, which is the bar in town in South Lake? Where are you at? All those. Like, I know I'm going to get some of those. So I don't know how you deal with it, because I guess you live in your hometown, so it's a little different, but it's pretty funny because it's pretty much constant.
Yeah, I think people just understand that's I'm not going to be at those spots, so I haven't gotten those texts in years. But it's okay nonetheless. College football playoff rankings. There is a little bit of drama with what we got last night, and your new rankings have Ohio State still at 1, Indiana at 2, Texas A&M at 3, Georgia at 4, Texas Tech at 5, Oregon jumps to 6. Same record as Ole Miss, who goes down to 7. They apparently lost to the bye week. And Oklahoma's at 8. Notre Dame is at 9. Alabama at 10. Other teams of intrigue, BYU at 11. Miami at 12. Utah down to 13. Miami was up to 12. Vanderbilt at 14. Michigan jumps up 3 spots to 15. To, help Ohio State with their strength of schedule here in the last game of the regular season. Texas at 16. So I don't think that there are many teams that are going to be any sort of a threat after that we need to worry about discussing. Either way, a lot of the conversation last night over Oregon jumping Ole Miss, GMAC, was there anything else that you had an issue with, problem with, as far as how those rankings, when they came out, when you saw them?
I didn't. I mean, I loved that Miami is ahead of Utah. Utah is the most misplaced team of the entire bunch. And it's nothing to do with Utah and how good they might ultimately end up being, but they shouldn't be ahead based on what they've accomplished up to this point of Vanderbilt, and they shouldn't be ahead of Miami. And they were ahead of both. Miami jumped them. However, Vanderbilt didn't. I think you can make a case that Michigan should be in front of Utah. Like, Utah has had a good year, no doubt about it. They beat Arizona State, who currently resides in the top 25. Arizona State was without their starting quarterback. So if you're going to give teams the benefit of the doubt for losing without their starting quarterback, or their starting quarterback being less than stellar, then you should also probably take into account, well, they beat a team when were basically playing with one arm tied behind their back. So Utah's beat Arizona State. They deserve credit for that. They have a close loss to BYU. I guess that's helping them. They smashed Cincinnati, but Cincinnati's since lost 2 in a row. They haven't been the same since. They got beat by 24 points on their home field to Texas Tech. I love Utah. I had them in the preseason in my college football playoff as the Big 12 champion. I will always love that program. I always respect that program. They have no business being ahead of a team that is 30 spots better than them when it comes to strength of schedule. 30 spots is a lot. That's 1/4 of the college football world. That's how big the gap is between Vanderbilt's strength of schedule and Utah's strength of schedule, and yet they still sit right in front with the exact same record.
So I think the most drama from last night probably came from Hunter Yurachek and some of the things that he had to say. Let's start off with clip 2, John, when he was asked if Texas Tech is closer in the top 4 to the teams around 6 or around 7.
Do you see Texas Tech, or does the committee see Texas Tech as being closer to cracking the top 4 or closer to the teams, say, 6 and 7?
I'd say at 5, they're very close to 4 and very close to 6. And that's not to be funny. Texas Tech is a really good team. You look at their margin of victory, it leads the country at 33.8. They've got 10 wins of 20-plus points. They're in the top 5 in relative scoring offense and relative scoring defense. They are a really strong team, as are Georgia and Ole Miss and Oregon, the one-loss teams right there. So we talk about all 4 of those teams at great length and great depth each and every week. 4 really good one-loss teams grouped there together.
Can we just get the first sentence of that answer again, please?
I'd say at 5, they're very close to 4 and very close to 6.
I realize he clarified that by saying he wasn't being funny, but
I feel like Joe Pesci. Funny how?
when you add that to this exchange between Hunter Yurachek and Reese Davis, the comedy of errors continued.
But there was a change at 6-7 with Oregon and Ole Miss swapping spots. How much of an impact potentially could it be on Ole Miss if it's determined they don't have their head coach in the field?
6-7.
I left the space
You
in
gotta
there
love it. I
intentionally.
mean, don't get me wrong. He was thinking that. We were all thinking it.
No, I wasn't.
We?
No, I wasn't.
I feel like Uncle Phil right
Oh, yeah.
now. We?
No, not me. Not somebody who's trying to turn
Everyone was
that off
thinking
and been trying to turn that off for weeks now. Wasn't thinking that. Not someone who's
Nope,
muted that in their
you
own
were.
brain. I wasn't thinking that.
No, that was all you.
Well, if it makes you feel
Did
better,
you text Hunter, say, good one?
No.
this probably killed it.
This will be the this is the death blow for those two numbers being put together.
When the older coach on the field men start doing it, that usually is the, okay, you know what?
Well,
it's
we
time
already
to go.
had moms and dads dressing up as that for Halloween. That should have done it.
Yeah, well, this officially did it.
I hope
Yeah,
so.
but that's to connect with their kids. Who can be mad at them for that?
Sure. Of course. Is that what Hunter's doing? Connecting with the kids?
Yeah, he's just trying to be relatable. And hey, I'll be honest with you. It isn't. I will admit, as someone with a 6'4" and 1-year-old child in the house, every time 6-7 comes up, for example, we're watching basketball last night in between. So the football game between UMass and Bowling Green ended. There was a little break between the two. So we turned on St. Bonaventure, North Carolina. And sure enough, North Carolina, as soon as they got to 67 points, we were all thinking it. And my son, 6'7". Like, we all were thinking it. It's just programmed into us right now. That's where we're at.
Some of you are there.
6,
Why are you so
7.
down on everybody?
I that wasn't a spot I felt like we needed that there.
I get it.
Could have
but,
gone without that there.
On a week when the college football playoffs rankings release shows fairly unimportant because very little change outside of 6 jumping 7 or 7 jumping 6, 13 jumping 12. And that's pretty much it as far as intrigue. Oh, and Michigan being at 15 versus Texas at 16 on a day when we are literally splitting hairs on maybe the least important rankings release of all time, we will probably look back at this and say, you know what, at least we had one memorable moment. And it was when Hunter rejected 6-7.
How much of this being the least important rankings release ever was because you weren't on the show?
No, it's not. Believe me, there have been a lot that I haven't been on. I just felt like there was not a lot that we were going to learn. There wasn't a lot that we were going to draw conclusions on. 7 of the top 10 won last week in convincing fashion. And there just wasn't a lot of drama. And it really had nothing to do with me being on it. It just was it was a week where there wasn't going to be a lot of movement. And even what little movement there was going to be insignificant. What's the difference between Oregon being 7 or 6? Still a home playoff game, not in the 5 spot, because the 5 spot's the one you want because you play the G5 team. Like, to me, last night has nothing to do with me being on it or not. It has to do with the fact that Chalk flew last week and there wasn't a whole lot of adjustments to make of significance. No?
No, and we're just giving you a hard time. We like to have fun with you.
Well, I had multiple people say, oh, you take off a week when it doesn't matter. Like, I had several people give me a hard time about it. I'm like, dude, this has been planned for months. I didn't anticipate it being this way.
Now, how annoyed
Believe me.
would you have been had you been there and had to wait like 50 minutes to start?
Yeah, how long did that basketball game take at the end? I mean, SC and whoever it was that they were playing, I mean, goodness gracious, that game took forever to finish up.
At 7 o'clock when it was supposed to start, there was 11 minutes and 14 seconds left. I was like, oh, boy.
Longest game ever.
Not great.
Goodness. But it was kind of disappointing. Like, I wanted there to be a little bit of drama last night, and they just didn't give it to us. It's not because they should have, or, you don't want to manufacture drama, but they're really, last night, the only thing that they could have done that was justifiable was adjust Utah's ranking. I do think it's a little interesting that Michigan now, I do think, has access from where they're at right now in the event in which they beat Ohio State, but even that, I think, is maybe a bridge too far. I think BYU's been in the same spot. Big 12 can get 2 in if BYU beats Texas Tech. Like, nothing's changed there. Like, I just don't feel like anything changed last night. Do you see it any differently? Is there anything you see?
No, not really.
That's the unfortunate thing. I wish we had changes every week.
Here's the thing with Oregon jumping Ole Miss. A lot of people are mad about it, and I said facetiously Ole Miss lost to the bye week. We have asked for fluidity for a long time. We have asked people to not lock in their mindset on a team forever. And it's one of the major complaints about the AP poll. So if a team gets a big win and you feel like that propels them over another team, that should happen. Now, you should be able to explain that, and you should be able to say, I think more importantly, why they weren't there last week and than they are there this week. That's the explanation that I would want to hear is – you thought this much less of this team a week ago. Okay. And if you can explain that, great, good. But I'm for fluidity. Now, I think people begin to have a little more problem with it this late in the season because they will say, well, the majority of the body of work is there. How can you change your opinion on a team that didn't play? Because you obviously had to change your opinion on that team a little bit to move the other team above it if you had the other team above them before that. And I do think it's a very fair question to ask how much the Lane Kiffin situation is involved in that. I'm not saying it's 90%, 80%, 50%, but I think you're foolish to say it's 0%, Greg.
I don't know if the Lane Kiffin situation is
It's human nature, man. It's human nature to sit there and say, oh, they're not going to have their coach. So, they've already said that they ding them, so.
Here's the good news. Oregon's going to lose this week. So don't worry about that. All right. That's all you need to worry about. All right. But here's the other good news is the committee has had a bit of an infatuation with Oregon from the get-go. No,
kind of.
They kind of have.
Yeah.
Like I'm not saying, and I like Oregon. Like, they're a team that I have tremendous respect for. I'm not trying to couch it, but the Oregon infatuation is a bit aggressive. Do they have good personnel? Sure. I think the committee has also given them credit for winning games against quality teams when they are beat up. I mean, they're without their top 2 or 3 wide receivers, and they're still winning games. That's hard to do. They were at one point without their right tackle for a couple games. That's not easy. So I think the committee appreciates that. I also think they're flashy. I do. I think Oregon's flashy. And the committee in the past has often looked at teams and said, and kind of been enamored with their flash. And I think everyone also acknowledges that Oregon has a real high ceiling. They have a really high ceiling. And there's a lot to appreciate when it comes to evaluating that ceiling. But when we're looking at the resumes, I mean, purely off the resumes, and that's what a lot of this should be based on. This committee really looks at the eye test. I think if they look at the eye test, there's some things to not like about Oregon, if I'm going to be honest with you. But if you look at Oregon's strength of schedule, it's at 24. Ole Miss's strength of schedule is 33. That's it. It's pretty simple.
Yeah.
Oregon's played a harder schedule, according to analytics, than Ole Miss. And you can agree with that or disagree with that, but you have to acknowledge that that's probably what was the separator. Now, on the high side, does Ole Miss have a better win? Of course. But at the end of the day, Ole Miss also has played a very weak non-conference and has played the easiest or second easiest SEC schedule. So you got to acknowledge these things.
All right, when we come back, Heather Dinich will join us to give us her thoughts on the college football playoff rankings, what it means for the future, who could still be in, who's definitively out, all that and more when we come back. Do not forget, by the way, it feels like today is sort of one of those days that the weather is going to begin to cool off. Don't get caught in that cold. Schedule your system checkup now from a Train Comfort specialist. Train has been recognized 11 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. Visit Train.com to find a comfort specialist near you. Back with more on the college football play. Keep in mind, folks, I just want to remind everyone, we did not have a sitting head coach on the show today to start. We talked about the rankings. And after all the hell we caught last week, I've seen no congratulations coming in. So we'll pat ourselves on the back during the break. Back with more next. Welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Appreciate you being a part of the show. Heather Dinich is coming up at 7:40. Max Olson at 8:20. Talk college football with him. Massive rivalry game coming up the rest of this week. The Coach Wimp Sanderson at 9. And Colt McCoy talks Lone Star State Showdown. Or Texas A&M, as most of us like to call it. We'll ask him when the first time he heard that was. I need to know what your thoughts are quickly, Greg, on Miami. And it's one that I don't know if that I've just kind of gotten accustomed to where they are, gotten used to where they are, maybe even subconsciously accepted where they are as it pertains to them in Notre Dame. Miami is at 12. They moved up this week a couple spots, and you have Notre Dame sitting right there at 9. First off, how do you view those two resumes as far as similarities, differences?
Oh, man. Miami has 2 losses. Notre Dame has 2 losses. Both were single-score defeats. My biggest problem with my evaluation of those 2 teams is that I feel like Notre Dame is getting immense credit for beating teams they're supposed to beat convincingly. Like, the teams that they've played are pathetic in many cases. Like, they should not deserve credit for beating some of the teams they've beaten. Now, I give them credit for beating SC. I give them credit for beating Pitt. But for the most part, a lot of their schedule has been very underwhelming. I love Notre Dame and have grown close with that program, and I love their style. I think they have a real high ceiling this year. I just don't know if we know for sure that they are that much better than Miami. I mean, 3 spots better than Miami. I can't say that, because the one team that's getting no credit whatsoever for having endured challenges as it relates to starting players being out is Miami. They've had 8 starters that have missed time this year for extended periods of time, and no one's talking about that. And I just think Miami should be no worse than 11. No worse than 11, because they lost 2 games in which they turned it over 6 times. I know both those teams weren't very good. I get it. Louisville's average and SMU's fine, but not great. They should be higher than they are. And it's very frustrating to me that the committee is kind of putting them in this corner, because they made the mistake week 1 and they've slowly but surely been correcting it. But why is it that Oregon gets credit for winning games in spite of being without their top 3 wide receivers, when Miami is without their top 2 running backs at one point, 2 DBs at one point, their second best defensive lineman at one point, their top 2 defensive tackles at one point? Like, they've been without guys all season long, and no one wants to talk about it.
It's odd, I think, for sure. And it's just, I think a lot of people are going to be in my boat mentally and just say, we saw this game on the field. That's that. But I want to run this scenario by you as well. And folks are going to have to focus in here to kind of try to follow. Miami beats Pitt this weekend, right? Let's say Bama wins the SEC. They'll jump Notre Dame as SEC champions. BYU is going to lose again to Texas Tech. Notre Dame are going to be right there side by side with Miami again.
Yeah.
Because Bama will jump Notre Dame. Let's just say they stay at 9. Bama goes to 8. BYU will be down. Miami beats Pitt. They'll be up. And how do you rank those teams then? I mean,
you have to go head-to-head in that scenario.
I don't know how you don't, because Notre Dame's not getting a lot of credit for knocking off Stanford this weekend. I think Miami will get a little more credit for knocking off a Pitt team that is currently ranked at 8-3. So I guess it's not always fair to just project out certain scenarios how they would happen. We'll see when we get there. But if that were to take place and they're not above Notre Dame, then I think a lot of people are going to have a problem.
Understandably, I think at the same time, though, too, like, the committee can just say, we think they're better now than they were week 1. It was a long time ago, and we think that the growth that we've seen from Notre Dame outweighs the week 1 result. And if they say stuff like that, then you run the risk of really losing a lot of people. I think that's a dangerous precedent to set.
Very dangerous.
But they can say that. And honestly, you and I, if that game were played tomorrow, who you taking?
I think probably neutral site. I would lean Notre Dame as far as a pick, but I wouldn't feel great about it.
For sure.
Would not feel great.
No, I would lean Notre Dame as well. Like, I would take Notre Dame, and if they played again right now, I would. Now, do I feel great about it? Absolutely not. No, I saw Miami beat them, and we have to value the results. We have to. We have to put a premium on that. But right now, I think the coaches in that committee room are sitting there saying, yeah, I just think Notre Dame's the better team right now, just like you and I are saying right now. So if Notre Dame ultimately ends up ahead of Miami, a lot of people are going to be really ticked off, but I would also kind of understand. I would, because I think Notre Dame's better right now. But it's not going to be well received. So they better be prepared to make a real strong argument on behalf of the Irish, because it's not something that feels very good to say out loud, and it's not something that feels very good to acknowledge that possibility. Like, at the end of the day, you have to have Miami in front of Notre Dame if they are right next to each other. You have to.
Yeah. All right, we'll continue the conversation with college football playoff rankings. We have the entire show to get to that. And like I mentioned, after our next segment, Heather Dinich will be with us. We'll talk to her about it. Going to get into previews of some of the games coming up as well. But when we come back, some coaching news. We have some decisions that have been made. We'll update you on some coaching searches. Don't forget, you can always listen to the show, jocksfm.com. The app is in your app store, iPhone, Android. You can download it there. Search Jocks945 on YouTube. You can watch the show each and every morning, or just tell your home smart speaker to enable the Jock skill.
Bill Smith Buick GMC is the GMC Dealer of the Year, the national champion of GMC dealers. They've won it 8 times, including 5 years in a row. Just take the short drive up to Tacoma. You'll understand why. The deals that you'll find on the lot are second to none. I've bought multiple vehicles from Bill Smith Buick GMC. I think you guys will probably do the exact same. Why would you shop anywhere else when you get deals like this? Like a GMC Sierra 1500 SLT 4x4, $67,770 is the list price. You can take $15,000 off the sticker and get it for $52,770. It's deals like that keep people coming back. That's why 75% of their business is repeat customers. It's because you have a better experience when you shop with Bill Smith. Take the short drive at Coleman. You'll be glad you did. You can also shop online, have it delivered right to your driveway at BillSmithBuickGMC.com.
Some coaching news updates right after this on Jocks.
Welcome back, McElroy and Cubelic in the morning on Jocks 94.5. It's 7:32 a.m. here, Wednesday, November 26th. Thanksgiving Eve, if you will, so a lot to look forward to. Hopefully everybody is going to be traveling safely today to wherever your destination is. Hug your loved ones, hug your family, hug your friends, and enjoy this time together. It's a tremendous, tremendous time to be thankful for all the many blessings that we've been given. So enjoy this time together with family. Cole will be heading to Knoxville, Tennessee a little later in the week. Call Vanderbilt and Tennessee, and I'll be heading to Austin, Texas for the Texas A&M Aggies and the Texas Longhorns. So very much looking forward to those two matchups. Should be very exciting. Also looking forward to getting over to Bromberg's here at some point in the very near future, because we know that the Bromberg's pre-Christmas sale is back. It's Wednesday and Thursday of next week, December 3rd and 4th. The Mountain Brook and the Summit stores are 20% off throughout the store. So mark your calendars for this. Diamonds, gemstones, designer jewelry, fine timepieces, fabulous giftware, everything she'll love at an incredible savings. Make her Christmas wishes come true with a gift wrap in Bromberg's signature silver box. Don't wait. This sale only lasts 2 days. That's December 3rd and 4th, and some exclusions apply. See the store for details. In Mountain Brook Village and the Summit, it's Bromberg's.
Greg, what do you think of Eric Morris getting the gig at Oklahoma State, leaving North Texas?
You know what's funny is I kind of knew this was coming. There were some other coaches sitting at big jobs that wanted this job and that were very interested in this job. And I was trying to figure out why. I was asking people, I was like, what's the appeal here with, I mean, honestly, like I think Oklahoma State's a nice place, but I've never viewed it as like the ultimate destination. Like it's not the ultimate destination by any stretch, but there are a lot of people that believe the Oklahoma State job is a top 3 job in the Big 12. And I think most people listening to this show would say, all right, which one would you take, Oklahoma State or Arkansas? I think most people listening to this show would say, oh, yeah, Arkansas. I would take Arkansas in that scenario. Well, you talk to people in the coaching community, they view the Arkansas job as the 13th, 14th, 15th best job in the SEC. Whether you agree with that or not, that's what the people in the industry think. And as a result, Oklahoma State is a far more attractive destination for coaches. So when Arkansas is making a full court press on Eric Morris, he's like, no, we're good. I'm going to Oklahoma State, because they have deep pockets as it relates to the NIL, highly competitive NIL. They don't have the tops in the league. Texas Tech has the tops, but they're probably tied for second or third in that league as far as NIL is concerned. They have a ton of luxury suites at their stadium that's been fully renovated in the last 10 to 12 years. Every one of those suites is sold out. Every one of those suites is top dollar. So the program is very profitable, and it's a really desirable place. So I think that's what made it attractive, and Eric Morris was in hot pursuit of a lot of other places. Everyone was going after this guy. I don't know him that well. I know him okay, but I think he's a pretty good coach. I think he kind of fits what's worked there in the past with some air raid principles. He's going to inject some life into their offense, and stylistically is going to be consumable to what Oklahoma State fans have known and seen and loved and watched and supported for a long time. So I think it's a good hire for Oklahoma State, and it's not that surprising given how desirable that job was.
And it seems like he's going to be staying on at least through the end of their season, which I find interesting because we've had all this discourse about, well, if Lane Kiffin's going to stay or if he's going to leave, like, should he be allowed to coach through and stay? And it seems as if, like, yeah, we're just going to let him go, let him stay and do that. Like, is that okay, or are we being kind of hypocritical about not being okay with Lane doing it, but when Eric Morris is allegedly going to say, like, that's okay?
Well, you're not necessarily competing for the same crop of talent. Lane's move is viewed by many as lateral. To move from Ole Miss to LSU, lateral move, or Florida, wherever he ends up. So That's a little different than Eric Morris. The guys that he's actively recruiting at North Texas, very different than that. The guys he will be actively recruiting at Oklahoma State. So I can understand why it's a little bit different, but I have maintained from the get-go, I think it's foolish for Ole Miss to let Lane walk. I think they're letting their emotions get in the way. I think they're telling him he can't coach in the postseason is cutting off your nose to spite your face. I think if your job as an administrator at Ole Miss, your job is to give your team the best chance to go win a championship, and I think the best way to go win a championship is by having your coach on the sideline. So I don't blame North Texas for handling it this way, and I would advise Ole Miss, and if the same situation comes about and Lane he does decide to take another gig, I would encourage them to let him stay. I just think that's what's best for Ole Miss, even if it becomes a little bit confusing and conflicted, especially as it relates to the recruiting trail call. I still think it's in the best interest of Ole Miss to keep him around for the postseason run.
Don't you think you have to ask the question, and I don't mean like I'm about to ask you, looking for maybe a third-party answer or a guess of an answer. Don't you ask the players what they want?
Yeah.
I feel like that's a pretty big part of it, right? I mean, if you're a part of that administration, if you're the chancellor, if you're the AD, and it's going that direction, and you have that option, if Lane gives you that option, don't you sit down with the players without him and say, what do you guys want? And at least hear them out, because they're not good. I doubt, seriously, you've been in locker rooms like I have, that it would be a collective yes or no matter what. I can't imagine it's going to be 100% yes or no. Very few things are on a college football team. It's a lot of different people that have a lot of different desires from a lot of different places at a lot of different stages in life. So the collective agreement on almost anything is near impossible. But I would imagine there's not too many that would stand up in a very loud way, very vocal and very emotional about not wanting him to coach them through the postseason. Because I imagine they want to go win a championship too.
Of course.
And if you could put it together, I mean, would that not be the ultimate ride or die? The ultimate, hey, one last go? The last dance? I mean, that it feels like that'd be a pretty good rallying cry for everybody to get together and make one run at it. So we'll see how it plays out. We'll see where it goes. Heather Dinich joins us. We'll ask her if she thinks that would really impact where Ole Miss would be ranked in the college football playoff if they lost their head coach. Next on Jocks. Hey, tell him I'm sorry that was the Auburn athletic director. All right, welcome back in. McElroy and Cubelic in the morning. Let's continue talking college football playoff rankings with Heather Dinich. She covers them each and every week of ESPN. Joining us now on the Higginbotham hotline. Heather, did you have any sort of issue with Oregon jumping Ole Miss yesterday? We like fluidity at times, but I do think it gets a little more complicated the later in the season you get.
I didn't have any issue with it because I knew that the selection committee was waiting for Oregon to have that kind of a performance against that kind of a ranked CFP contender. I wasn't sure if they were going to make that move at this time. I thought they might wait one more week, maybe, because that win came at home. But Ole Miss has some good wins too, especially beating Tulane. I feel like people are forgetting about that one. And Tulane right now is leading the group of 5 race, so that's important. But by making that move, that leads me to believe that Ole Miss, if they lose the Egg Bowl, could be in serious trouble at 10-2.
It feels like that. I think we've kind of been saying that from the get-go, especially after what we saw with them dropping Bama from 4-10 off a close loss at home to a team that's ranked 8th. It's like there's not much margin for error. But I want to revert back to Oregon. Are they now safely in the field regardless of this upcoming week's result? Because I'm thinking if they lose to Washington, it's going to get a little uncomfortable on Selection Day for them.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. And I wasn't sure if Washington might creep into the ranking this week. SMU did, and I understand it, but Washington and SMU were kind of similar in my mind. But with Washington being unranked, I think that makes it a little dicier for Oregon if they were to lose that game. And, one of the things Selection Committee Chair Hunter Yurachek was asked about on the teleconference last night after the ranking reveal was about margin of victory or margin of loss as well, right? And I think part of answering these questions is how these games unfold. You remember the Texas Tech BYU game? The reason BYU dropped so far was because of how they lost that game. Texas Tech clearly separated and was so much better in that game. So as we talk about these results coming up here, part of that helps answer those questions as to how far a drop might happen. And I think Oregon enters that equation as well with the Washington game.
Heather Dinich joining us on the Higginbotham hotline, discussing the college football playoff rankings. This is a little bit of the rankings and also just a little bit of big picture college football. What does it say about the sport if the highest ranked team in the ACC not only doesn't make their conference championship game, but also does not make a 12-team college football playoff?
Well, what is it? I don't know if it says as much about the sport as it does about the system and the inclusion of the 5 highest ranked conference champions, how that changes the picture and how that deepens the field all the way down to where Virginia is. But I will continue to push back on the notion that the ACC champion would be left out of this thing because there are 5 ACC teams currently ranked, and all 5 of those teams are ahead of Tulane. And it's a different scenario than last year where you had a really good Boise State team already eating up one of those top 12 spots. And look, Tulane might lose. We're all kind of assuming they're the flavor of the week, flavor of 2 weeks, right, in terms of the American Conference. JMU is hanging out there. They haven't been ranked yet. North Texas is hanging out there. But their strength of schedules are around 125. They're horrible. That's why they haven't been ranked. So I think that plays into a fact that the ACC should feel confident, even if it is a low-ranked conference champion. And remember, Clemson was down there last year. I can't remember exactly where they were in the final ranking, but they were a 3-loss ACC champ. So that precedent has kind of already been set for that conference.
It's kind of crazy when you think about it. What is James Madison's path in? And is there a scenario? Granted, it's a little bit thin, but if Duke, for example, somehow finds a way to the ACC championship game, wins the ACC championship game, is there a scenario, Heather, that we've kind of floated, and albeit it wasn't well received by the ACC, Is there a scenario in your eyes where the ACC champion could be left out in favor of a second G4 team?
Well, I think if you do have Duke win, it comes under the microscope more. It at least opens the door for debate more because the loss to UConn was horrible, right? But at the same time, I go back to the fact that we have not seen JMU pop into the rankings yet. Now, to your point, the answer is yes, it can happen because there aren't reservations at the table for the Power Four conferences. It's the rule is the 5 highest ranked conference champions. So if by chance that ACC conference champion isn't ranked or they're behind the G5, then I think it is possible, but I would call it highly unlikely given the pattern of what we've seen between the ACC and JMU. But JMU, to your point, they win the Sun Belt, then they have a chance as one of the highest ranked conference champions. They've got to win the Sun Belt. But the difference between JMU and the Sun Belt and the American and the ACC is that JMU is probably not playing a ranked opponent in their conference championship game. And the record strength in that committee meeting room, the new metric, will improve the record strength of every team playing in a conference championship game facing a ranked opponent. Now, significantly enough that means the ACC runner-up is going to get in because they played a ranked team and lost? No, right? You got to use some common sense with it too. But the point being, all the other conferences are going to have an opportunity that JMU will not.
Heather Dinich joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking college football playoff rankings that were released last night. I would like to have a conversation with you on BYU at 10-1 with a strength of record at 6, I believe, right now. And you brought up actually that margin of defeat a little bit earlier, which I understand would be a pretty big ding against them, but also against a team the committee obviously respects at 5. Are they too low at 11?
If they lose the Big 12 championship game, they're too low. And I only say that because of where they are right now, which is if the playoff were today, they would be out. And if they beat Texas Tech, they win the Big 12, they're a lock. But so is Texas Tech. That's where things get wild. I mean, nothing would surprise me more than to see the Big 12 runner-up, if it's Texas Tech, get excluded. They're not going to drop their number 5 team out of the playoff because they lost to a team they beat during the regular season. I mean, no other team in the country, literally, would be able to say we beat the Big 12 champs. So Texas Tech would be in, BYU would be in. But if BYU loses a second time, especially if they lose again the way they did, they're toast.
It's crazy to think about. The last one I'm curious about, Heather, is Texas. Of course, still long way out, sitting at 16, jumped by Michigan. Not sure why, but I digress. Actually, I do know why, but that's beside the point. Can Texas in victory this weekend do enough to get in the conversation? Is it possible in your eyes?
I don't think so. Again, that's another thing that would surprise me because not this week, the week before, they dropped to number 17. That's no man's land. That's playoff irrelevance. You know, that was a strong statement by the committee. And when that happened, my immediate thought was not even a win against Texas A&M is going to catapult them to where they need to be, which is a safe spot, right? Top 10, maybe this year top 9 if we go back to those 2 Big 12 teams in the playoffs. So it would be an outstanding win. To me, the bigger question is how far would the Aggies drop? Because everyone in that committee meeting room knows that they've had one of the easiest paths in the SEC. They didn't have to play Alabama. They didn't have to play Georgia. And, are they hanging their hats on that Notre Dame win? So how far would they drop? Would they lose a first-round bye? It depends on how the game unfolds.
It's intriguing stuff, Heather. Thank you so much for the time today, helping us break it down. Appreciate it, and look forward to catching up with you again soon.
Thanks, guys. Enjoy Rivalry Week.
Yes, ma'am. Heather Dinich joining us on the Higginbotham Hotline, talking college football playoff rankings. That was one spot I wanted to go with you too, GMAC. And Heather kind of looked a little bit more forward with it. But is BYU too low right now, in your opinion, at 11?
No, I think they're about where they need to be. Because honestly, like I think BYU, they're a program I have a ton of respect for. I think they're pretty good, to be honest with you. But I think that they are – I don't feel confident in them being super competitive if playing against teams that are also in the college football playoff world. Like, their style of play is not going to be conducive to being highly competitive against some of the teams that they would have to face off against, which is why things got so sideways for them against Texas Tech. Same situation if they played against Georgia, Ohio State, Miami even, who I think if they played BYU head-to-head, I think Miami would handle them in, I don't want to say convincing fashion, but I think they would handle them. I really feel good about that. I think Ole Miss would handle them. I just think BYU is kind of a ground and pound, rugged. Love them. I mean, honestly, I love the way they play. I'm just not super confident in their style of play translating to success in the playoffs. So how do you feel about them?
I think they're a really good team. And here's the problem with where we are with college football right now and referencing the rankings and the teams at the top and the other teams. I think you will agree with this. In most other years, whether it be tier 1, tier 2, tier 3, whatever it was, those groups of teams, we had a ton of confidence in what they would actually do against other teams. Oh, Georgia, they would handle them. They would beat them. They'd beat them. Oklahoma State, oh, no way they're going to go get them. They could not go get them. USC, handle that team. I could easily see BYU losing to Alabama. I could easily see BYU beating Alabama. I could see BYU losing to Notre Dame. I could see BYU beating Notre Dame. I mean, now, if you want to climb way up the rankings, that's a little bit of a different discussion, I think. Like, I'm not going to have the conversation about Ohio State right now. I'm not going to have the conversation about Indiana. I think they handle BYU both. But could they get Oregon? Could they get Ole Miss? Could they get Oklahoma? Absolutely. Could they lose to those teams? Absolutely. And I think that's why it's a little more difficult this year, Greg, is because maybe after 3, 4, 5 teams, I think most of these teams could all get one another on any given Saturday. And it could go the other way around the next Saturday.
I don't disagree with that. I just think BYU's margin, BYU's a lot like Iowa. Like, that's kind of what they are. And that's a great sign of respect. I think their pathways to victory are a little more narrow than most of the teams that they're being ranked against.
It's fair. And it makes for a great discussion because I think they all have spots within their teams that allow for some success by their opponents, and it would depend on how much you can take advantage.